Good evening.
Good evening.
We'll start off tonight with prayer and pledge. I'll lead the prayer and the pledge. For those that like to participate, please bow your head. Most gracious Heavenly Father, we come to you tonight asking you to strengthen our city, strengthen the unity, the bond it is between us, cover all of our employees as well as our citizens. Father, for those who are sick this evening, please heal them in a mighty way. Father, we ask that you just govern this meeting accordingly to the way it should go. These things we ask in the mighty name of Jesus, and they all said, amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. It's that time of the year when you hear the pledge, they'll holler, let's play ball. Madam Clerk, can I get a roll call, please?
Councilmember Young.
Present.
Councilmember Seals.
Present.
Councilmember Balls.
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Garcia.
Present.
Councilmember Ostash is absent. Councilmember Braddock is absent. Councilmember Wiggins.
Present.
Councilmember Hammond.
Present.
And Mayor Moore.
Present.
You have 7 present and 2 absent.
Thank you. We're gonna have a full house tonight, so if people don't mind sort of scrunching it, I see a whole another crowd coming in. It's like a wave today. Yes, they're here. I'd like to thank everybody for coming out to the city council meeting. Little housekeeping. Council persons, can you please put your phones on vibrate or silence, please? Audience, I ask that you do the same thing, please. This meeting is being televised, and so I'm asking that we restrain from booing, clapping, and any obnoxious behavior. Madam Clerk, do we have any announcements?
Yes, Mayor, we have a couple. The city's convenience station will be open this Saturday from 8 a.m. to noon. Residents may utilize the station to drop off bulky or miscellaneous items that need to be disposed of. The Spring Team Up to Cleanup event is also this Saturday, May 9th, from 9 a.m. to noon. The event will begin and end at the Public Works Building, where lunch will be served. Volunteers are still needed and welcome to show up Saturday morning or sign up by contacting Rachel at 989-759-1401. Mayor, we have a proclamation on the agenda. It's declaring May 2026 as Mental Health Month.
And that proclamation will be read by Councilwoman Hammond.
Thank you. City of Saginaw proclamation, whereas mental health is essential to everyone's overall physical health and emotional well-being, and whereas mental health will strike 1 in 5 adults and children in a given year, regardless of age, gender, race, ethnicity, religion, or economic status, and whereas people who have mental illnesses can recover and lead full, productive lives, and whereas an estimated 2/3 of adults and young people who have mental health disorders are not receiving the help that they need, and whereas the cost of untreated and mistreated mental illnesses and addictive disorders to American businesses, government, and families has grown to $300 billion annually, and whereas community-based services that respond to individual and family needs are cost-effective and beneficial to consumers and the community, and whereas the National Mental Health Association and its national partners observe Mental Health Month every May to raise awareness and understanding of mental health and illness. Now, therefore be it resolved that Brenda Moore, Mayor of the City of Saginaw, do hereby proclaim May 2026 as Mental Health Month in the City of Saginaw. We also call upon the citizens, government agencies, public and private institutions, businesses, and schools in the state of Michigan to recommit to our community to increasing awareness and understanding of mental health and the need to appropriate accessible services for all people who have mental illnesses. And witness whereof, I have hereunto set my hand and caused the seal of the city in Saginaw to be affixed the 6th day of May in the year of our Lord 2026. Signed, Brenda Moore, Mayor. Councilpersons Priscilla Garcia, Michael Balls, Eric Braddock, Carly Hammond, Bill Ostash, Jacinta Seals, Heidi Wiggins, and Tobias Young.
Can we have representatives come? And first, before you do that, I need you to walk through so that we can congratulate you.
Congratulations.
How you? Congratulations, sweetie. My hands are freezing. Congratulations. Got cold hands. All right.
If you would like to, that's fine.
Yes, I can say it too.
Please have words. Please. It's a special day. Somebody go speak.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Hello.
My name is Anna. I am a consumer with services. I would like to read you our statement for our group that we work with for Saginaw County. It's a consumer leadership group mission statement. Our mission is to support people who have lived with mental illness to become leaders in their communities. We work together to build confidence, speak up for others, bring hope to people who are in their own recovery journeys. We believe everyone can grow, help others, and make a difference. Thank you.
Sweetie. Madam Clerk.
Mayor, that takes us to public hearings.
Speakers, you will remain courteous and respectful when approaching the podium. Please state your name. The clerk will call you to the podium. You have 3 minutes to present. The main speaker has 10 minutes. Right? I think I'm reading it right.
I think you mixed them
No,
together.
I went up to the wrong one, sorry. Let me go back and try this again. The purpose of a public hearing is for the public to address the council as a whole. This is not a question or answer period. You will be called up to the podium. Please state your name. The first person to speak is the main speaker. They are, or the designated speaker. They have 10 minutes to speak. Everyone after that has 3 minutes. This is not a question or answer period, so you will not get an answer, so. Madam Clerk.
Our public hearing is regarding 2026-2027 Community Development Block Grant Program, Emergency Solutions Grant Program, Home Investment Partnership Program.
Do we have a speaker?
Okay, good evening. Can everyone hear me okay? Okay, thank you. All right. Thank you for having me tonight. My name is Alexis Farrell, and I'm with McKenna, which is the firm that's been assisting the city with preparing the 2026 Consolidated Plan. And so I'll have a presentation later on, and we'll be happy to answer as many questions and comments that we get during the public hearing as I can tonight, but I want to make clear that we're in the middle of our public comment period for this plan, and so what that means is that it's still in a draft mode. It's available on the website for all to see, comment on, and what will happen is we'll take all the feedback that we get here tonight and make sure that all of that's incorporated into the plan. And so what is a consolidated plan? To introduce what we're talking about here, as was mentioned by our city clerk, the consolidated plan has to do with funding that the city receives. So there are 3 federal programs that the city gets funding from. So the Community Development Block Grant Program, which is really a flexible program to fund all different types of community activities. And then there is the ESG, which is the Emergency Solutions Grant. This is really focused on serving the needs of the homeless population and providing things like shelter support and gap services and things of that nature. There's also the Home Grant, which is focused specifically on housing itself, so supporting the development of new affordable housing, supporting our existing housing stock, and things like that. Again, I'm gonna dive deeper into all of this in my presentation later on, so this is just a high-level overview. But the Consolidated Plan really is what I've referred to it as is a long-form grant report. So in the beginning of the report, it talks about where do we stand as a city in terms of income, all different types of demographic information is required. And what this does is it lays the groundwork of here's where we're at as a city today, and here's what we're going to do with this funding from the federal government in the next 5 years. And so tonight, what we're looking to hear from the public is just comments on what is in this plan. And so back in December, we had some community outreach events. We had an open house here. There's a lot of familiar faces that I saw there that night. We asked for input on what do you want to see in terms of roadway improvements or additional housing support? Do we want to continue to support home ownership? More than likely, yes. But what else? Do we want to support code enforcement, making sure that there's good curb appeal in our neighborhoods? So digging down into how do we want to spend this money over the next 5 years. And so I'll talk a lot about the feedback that we heard back in December in my presentation later tonight. And one thing I wanted to mention is that because of the delays with the federal budget this year in Congress, there was a lot of information that we were sort of holding off on until we got additional specific allocations from the government, which just happened a few weeks ago. And so while we've been going through this process, we've kind of been waiting for these numbers, trying to see, are we going to get the amount of funding that we have been traditionally over the last decade or so? Are there going to be major cuts? Thankfully, there were just a few minor cuts to the funding. Most of it has remained, and there's been some gap funding from prior years so that the city can maintain its existing level of service, that programs that have been funded by these funds can continue on as they have been. And so I'll be happy again to answer questions later on, and we'll dive deeper into what we heard again back in December, as well as a little bit of information on what that needs assessment in terms of the demographic analysis is presenting. So that's what we're here to get comments on tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak to this topic? Please come to the podium.
Good evening, Mayor Moore, Mayor Pro Tem Garcia, City Council, City Manager, and staff. I am Valerie Toney, and I serve as Chairperson of the Human Planning Commission. It is an absolute honor to represent the Human Planning Commission this evening as you consider the recommendations for funding fiscal year 2026. You should have received in your packets the funding chart that has our recommendations and the recommendations of the city manager, along with the narrative explaining our proposed allocations. The HPC met in February and March of this year in her presentation from existing and new community partners with innovative programming and services that will be available to citizens and youth within the city. To recap, there are 3 grants the city receives from the Department of Housing and Urban Development. Those are the Emergency Solutions Grant, Community Development Block Grant, and the Home Grant. The HPC reviewed all of the applications and prepared questions to ask the applicants during their interview. Now, as you know, each applicant is allowed 5 minutes to make a presentation, and the HPC is given 10 minutes to ask questions of them. Once those interviews were finished, deliberations were completed as a commission, and the allocations were prepared for your consideration. I would like to take time to highlight a few recommendations for you. Under the CDBG grant category of public facilities, the Saginaw Housing Commission has been given an allocation of $90,000 to support their efforts in providing Wi-Fi for high-rise residents. This will assist homebound residents with using technology for virtual appointments, filling out documents, and other needed services. The Housing Commission will also receive $210,000 to assist Maplewood Manor with the updates needed to the fire alarm monitoring system. The Public Services category has a new recommendation to fund the CAN Council's Growing Up Safe and Protected program for $20,000. The Home Grant will fund Compassionate Care Network at $120,000 for a new construction or home rehabilitation project. Building Poder will receive funding in the amount of $73,634 to support a new construction or home rehabilitation, and both of those projects will be here in the city of Saginaw. The ESG grant serves the most vulnerable among us of the population. So the HPC recommended continued support of the Mustard Seed Foundation at $25,000 to support the shelter that serves women and children. Also, Restoration Community Outreach receives funding for the men's shelter at $40,000. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak to this subject matter? That's how you do it. That's how you do it. Hand it off. Finish the conversation.
I am Kana Franklin, and I am just here to say that we are in the middle of the comment period. The plan is posted, and we would like everyone to take a look at it and give us any written comments by May 21st. We also would like to acknowledge our Human Planning Commissioners. If you are here, please stand. Commissioner Suzanne Smokoska, Henry Porterfield Jr., Dennis Morrison, Lula Woodard, Janae Beatty, Beth Carson Church, Christiana Hook, Darlene Carpenter, Heather Collins, Roberta Bidwell, Michael Faust, Deb Melconian, Leanne Martouche, and Chairperson Valerie Tony. Thank you.
Is there anyone else who'd like to speak to this topic? Is there any?
Greetings, council, city staff, everybody in attendance. I just wanted to step up real quick. I did review the plan. I think it's, and shout out to the Planning Commission for all your work that you've done, and city staff and whoever else helped with the plan. I just would want to submit two things. I did see the priorities. I think it was like 20 or 21 of them. What I didn't see was a plan to address new builds, new housing. I see a lot that's pertaining to rehabilitation of current housing stock. I submit that we probably should bring that down a little bit because a lot of our housing stock is really, really old. We'd be wasting a lot of money in that way. I think we need more new than rehab, just an opinion. So other than that, again, thank you for your time. Thank you for all your good work. Appreciate it.
Is there anyone else who'd like to speak to this subject matter? Is there anyone else who'd like to speak to this subject matter? I need a motion to close this public hearing.
Second.
It's been moved and second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Madam Clerk.
On to public input.
Now, speakers, you are to remain courteous and polite at the podium. You will be called up by our city clerk. We ask you to state your name. Please, you have 3 minutes. Please stick to the subject at hand. Madam Clerk.
Our first speaker is Jessica Chandler.
Hello,
Hello.
my name is Jessica Chandler, and
Ms.
I want-
Jessica, can you talk up just a
oh,
little?
sorry. Is that better?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm usually super loud, and I didn't want to have
No, you can be
feedback or
super
anything.
loud.
Okay. Hello there. I want to thank you in advance for the time to speak tonight. My name is Jessica Chandler. I moved to Saginaw in November of '25. Right before all the snow hit. And I'm new to Saginaw. I'm also new to Michigan as a whole. I found a really cute little house, little driveway, and I was not aware there was the no parking from 3 to 6 a.m. on city streets. There are about 8 no parking signs down the opposite side of my street, and the way I came into the city with my moving truck, I did not see the ordinance, the no parking. So I was a little bit confused after all the snow left when I started getting parking tickets. And in 35 days, I got 4 tickets. I appealed the first 2 because, again, I didn't see the sign that's posted coming in. And then I got a ticket for blocking the driveway. And then I got a ticket for parking in my yard. I was trying to stay off the street. We also had construction, so that wouldn't have even been an option during the day. I am working on lessening the vehicles that I own, but if I was to have somebody come and visit, like family from out of state or whatever, they would not be in compliance either. I know I can get the 3-day pass for weekend visitors and stuff, and that is helpful for those people, but not for long-term visitors, like a week or whatever. I want to say that you have amazing employees in the city. They've been very helpful, and zoning has helped me find a solution for my current issue, but I just wanted to shoot. Okay, so real quick, trash is not picked up at 3 to 6 a.m. The street sweeper does not come through at 3 to 6 a.m. The plows did not come through at 3 to 6 a.m. I feel like neighborhood streets should be for the people who live there to park their vehicles. And what I could find was the ordinance came from the late 50s. It's been 80 years. There's multiple multifamily homes on my street, and everybody's having a problem figuring out parking. So I was just wondering if maybe we could reconsider the neighborhood streets, not the 3 to 6 a.m. no parking. Okay. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Our last speaker is Melanie Velasco.
Hello, Melanie Velasco here. I have many concerns for Saginaw, Michigan. This is what I have to say about the homeless. A 70-year-old woman was out in the cold from February. Well, I don't know where she's at now, but Mr. Roy Stewart, a wonderful man. He let her stay a night or 2, and then a friend took her to someplace else. 70-year-old women and men, or however, should not be out into the cold, people. It's a disgrace to Saginaw, Michigan, to have homeless people out in the cold. February, she's between Rite Aid and a building on Genesee, between 2 houses, 70 years old. How would that look? A 70-year-old woman dead, frozen, like the 15-year-old in the abandoned houses. We've got to stop this. This is Saginaw, Michigan. We want to step up. Don't we want to step up? So we need to board these houses up. We need not to let the homeless be out running the streets in between buildings and 70 years old. I was homeless for 2.5 years in my vehicle, in my van. I loved it. But that might not be for everyone. I'm older, I'm more mature, I like the van life, I like the RV life, I like the outdoor, I like to live in the surrounding of Saginaw. It's getting better, it's getting more prettier, and look at the beautiful people. Beautiful, beautiful. Okay, anyway, back to every like 8 to 10 minutes, a woman or a man is being abused. That's domestic violence. Women, men, if you are being beaten, abused, you're talked wrongly to, disrespected, guess what? Put your tennis shoes on and get running. Hit the door and be gone. Do not be a victim. That you can put yourself in those shoes to die. All right. Little homes, we need little homes. We need places for these people to live. Come on. It only costs like $3,000 to get a half, and with people that are on, which is a large, Jenny, I called the Social Security, and you know how many people there are on disability? Wait. If they took the money and they immediately had it put to the side for their little homes could be paid up within like 3 years. And they would have a decent housing to live in at $3,000. It could be reconstructed. Serpro said they could do it. I talked to them. I says, can you build little homes? Can you do this and can you do that? Yes, we can. Serpro can do it. And then the other contracting company that's in Saginaw down over there by St. Mary's, they can do it. All right, another concern that I have is the ticket man came around and told me I got to move my van from off of Mr. Roy's property, which you guys gave him. Thank you. He pays the taxes on it and he keeps it cut and it looks out nice. Yes, my van is there, yes. But it is a driveway. Can we step up Saginaw, Michigan? We can. Love you.
Thank you.
Love you all.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
I know I'm unforgettable.
Madam Clerk,
Mayor, on to remarks of council.
we were scheduled to start with Councilman Braddock, so do we go to Councilwoman Wiggins? Councilwoman Wiggins, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I'll give him a few minutes. Thank you guys for coming.
Mayor.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I appreciate everyone who came tonight, and congratulations for the recipients of the proclamation. Thank you for all of our speakers and our public speakers. As was already mentioned, you know, we have our meetup to clean up this weekend on Saturday. Great time for the city to come together and clean up the areas. I had the opportunity to talk to Scott Thomas from Scenic and spend some time just going over parts of the city. Appreciate and love the one-day event, but we spent a lot of time talking about, you know, trying to develop a way that either churches or other organizations can make it a commitment to do it more often, once a month or every couple of weeks, working with churches, or, you know, schools need community service hours sometimes, you know, just developing a plan so that it's on more of a consistent basis. I think it's something that can be done, and we can clean up the city of Saginaw. You know, it's not just up to the city staff itself. We just need to care more about the areas around our neighborhood. If you see trash, don't look at it and say, it's not our problem. It's not my problem. Somebody else should do that. It can be taken care of, and I think a plan can be devised so that that happens. But I am excited to be a part of Saturday's event. I have a big group coming with me, and it'll be a good time. So I encourage everyone, you still have time to sign up. That's it for me.
Thank you. Next, we have Councilwoman Hammond.
Thank you. I wanted to take a little bit of a second to explain some of the big items on our agenda that we're reviewing today. So number one is obviously the budget. It's a lot of hundreds of pages. I did take the time to read it, and we'll be getting a presentation from Ms. Bland on that. We also have our 5-year consolidated action plan. That's under the manager's report. Now, I don't want to conflate what's also been spoken about today, which is this year's recommendations for our 26-27 home ESG dollar allocations. So the 5-year consolidated action plan, it's talking about the future of those funds, in a more strategic, directed way. So we are going over that draft, and that's what they said. They're accepting written comments up until May 21st to that department. That is a 5-year plan. It's very important. So we get about $3.5 million from HUD every year in those categories. So that's talking about $15 to $20 million anticipated of directed spending that we're talking about. So there are two very large documents between the budget and the consolidated action plan. So I just wanted to mention those are the long-term planning things on our agenda. And then also our resolutions at the end of the meeting are for the directed spending that the recommendations came from the Human Planning Commission that was spoken about in the public hearing. And that includes our home, ESG, and CDBG dollars overall for this year's spending. I also wanted to thank Ms. Chandler for coming and speaking about our parking ordinance. This is something that I looked into, and I really appreciate giving the point of personal privileges.
No, the severe weather alerts are going.
It's
the first Wednesday of the month.
As a test? All right, excuse me, thank you.
Okay, it's just a test.
Thanks. I'm like, oh. Sorry. Just for everyone. All right, another helpful announcement. Thank you. So I appreciate it. Just getting a little nervous. So thank you for speaking on the parking ordinance. It is from 1957. I personally believe that it is unnecessary and superfluous. We have certain council members who have looked into it, and we've also had staff that have looked into it. And one of the theories is that that the majority of people in the city like it the way that it is. I do not necessarily believe that to be true. I think maybe a survey is in order because I do think that it is more hindering than helpful. There are consequences, obviously, to lifting it, but of course that wouldn't be lifting parking restrictions in all areas. It's just where parking would otherwise be allowed, we're removing that restriction that only exists from 3 a.m. to 6 a.m. And I will also be asking a question later about our budget on the income and expenditures around parking tickets that the city has. That's interesting. So I think those are all the comments from my notes. Thank you.
Thank you. Next we have Councilman Young.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I will begin with our public speaker, Ms. Velasco. She had mentioned about home being boarded up. And I received an email about 4 days ago about a property not too far from the rescue mission on Burt that a lot of people congregate at and they're using, and that needs to be boarded up. So that address was emailed to me, and I rode by the other day, and not that property, but directly across the street, I seen maybe half a dozen people on the porch in and out of the house, and I guess that's what we should do as citizens. If you see, homes that maybe once were boarded up, they take the boards down and start using it. We have to address it because that's how you get the fire started and other crimes are committed too. So I want to thank you, that resident, and I'll be forwarding that information so we can maybe get it back boarded up before something unsafe happens there. So and also leading into from that is the vacant property list. So staff was helpful in getting me the vacant property list. So many know that I know a lot of the landlords and local developers here. So what I've been doing is passing out that vacant property list to the people that I know that can get them back on the tax roll and maybe rehab the homes. So I've just been organically doing that in the community, and it's really taken off. And I've also met with the Housing Commission because that home ownership program that they have, I wanted to get all of the nuts and bolts and the information correct, as I'm passing that out in the community too. So I did have a meeting with the Housing Commission, and they gave me more information. And also when they have their residents go through the program and they become homeowners, there's a gap that they're asking me to fill because they wanted me to join a board that they have. So when you have people who were on Section 8, they're now homeowners, they have that gap where home ownership, they don't know certain things that they need to do to maintain the home. And when you open the phone book or start calling companies to learn things about a home, it becomes expensive. So they need someone that maybe can advise new homeowners on how to properly take care of their home and maybe some things that they can do themselves around the home. So, you know, we need to increase home ownership, but we also need to do it the correct way. So I've been assisting the Housing Commission. I will currently, you know, keep doing that too. So that's what I've been doing. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Councilwoman Seal.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I attended the Be Well Public Health Summit this past week, this past Friday, at the Temple Theater. It was a really great event. The morning was full of keynote speakers. The Chief Medical Executive for the state of Michigan, she actually came to Saginaw. She spoke here at the Temple. Had a dialogue with Dr. Pruitt, Saginaw County's medical director. And Dr. Pruitt is now the new CEO of CMU. And they had a dialogue on stage, and it was really, really good information that they were talking about, up-to-date information, health information on a multifaceted approach to Saginaw top health initiatives. And so Dr. Shaheen came behind them, and he actually talked about what he's been doing in Saginaw for the last 25, 30 years with his father and what he's continued on from his father's legacy. So it was really good to see the great things that are happening not only in our city but in our county and in our state, and seeing Saginaw being the hub of the medical diamond and what's happening and what's about to happen here in Saginaw. And to be a part of that is really special. The day went on where we had lunch, and then afternoons had breakout sessions at the Temple Theater last Friday. It was a great event. I would say about 150 people were there, and usually they have this event out at Horizons, but they wanted it in Saginaw, so they actually brought it downtown. So it was a really good event. So there are great things happening around us. Great conversations were happening, and I think we're on the up and up, and we just need to continue giving back to our community in the ways we've been doing. So thank you, Madam Mayor. That's it.
Thank you. Next, we have Councilman Ball.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I don't have too many comments to say today, but I would like to thank the staff, city manager, and Mr. Carwat and everybody else for the marvelous job they're doing at the Ojibwe Island. You know, it's really pretty from what I can see, you know, without actually driving on it. And I wanted to mention too that it'll be the 40th anniversary of me and my wife being married, where I met her at the Ojibwe Island. So she came here today, and I wanted to tell her thank you for showing up. And hopefully she won't drop me off on the way back home.
Oh, Lord.
I got a lot of witnesses in here anyway, so hopefully that don't happen. But, you know, it's really beautiful out there, and I think it's going to be real great for our community to be able to go and visit the park this year. The other thing I want to mention, too, is the Help Organization is doing great work. We have a counselor on staff now. If the parents need to come and talk to a counselor, or if we have students that we mentor, if they're having some issues, there's a possibility that both of them can get some help by talking to a counselor. And that's a beautiful thing to happen here in the city of Saginaw, because we know our youth are, they're not equipped for good engagement. I mean, some people think that because they have an argument, the next thing you know, they're supposed to bring a gun out or something like that. So we know we have a lot of fatherless homes here in the city of Saginaw due to alcohol and drugs, which is a mental illness. And we're going to have to start finding some kind of way to help our community out to get these alcohol and drugs out of the people, because once we get them in them, it's just hard for people. Once you get addicted, you know, it's the whole family suffers. And not only the family, but the city too. So hopefully we can help out these youths so they won't get involved in alcohol and drugs and the issues that come behind that, like crime and all that kind of, and homelessness and stuff of that nature. I've actually talked to some of the homeless people that I've seen in the city, and some of them I've gave money to, and some of them I have not. But a lot of them tell me that when they want money, they want it to, use it to go get some alcohol and stuff like that. So I believe that homelessness have a lot to do with alcohol and drug addiction. And if we say it's a mental illness, then we need to find out some kind of way to combat these problems so it don't get to be worse and worse and worse. I think a lot of good things are happening in the city of Saginaw. Something I haven't seen in, I don't know, probably 30, 40 years, going over the river and seeing an elevator shaft being built on Hamilton Street is almost like a miracle in itself. I mean, here we have a brand new building going up, so that's great news for the city of Saginaw. You know, we continue to see things like that happen here. So, thank you. Madam
Thank
Mayor.
you. Next, we have Councilman Ostash.
Thanks, Mayor. Welcome, everybody, to the Anderson Center tonight, watching from home. Just a few things. The parking was brought up again tonight. Actually, Councilwoman and myself had met with our city staff. I'd like to take a look at that. Maybe I can talk to her afterwards. Maybe come up with something where we could have certain streets. Some of the problems that happen, some of our streets are very narrow from the old login days and different parts, so there would be absolutely no way that we could do it because we have to think about our emergency vehicles. We have fire trucks, trying to get those down. So even if we could do something, probably would be parking one side, but we'll see if we can talk about that again. So thank you for bringing that up, and I feel your frustration because I had company get a ticket one time in front of my house. Councilwoman Wiggins brought up picking up trash in our neighborhoods, and most of you know that I've adopted a park, but we do clean up a lot of the area around the house. The park has now trash cans for the folks. Well, also too, when you're out doing this in your neighborhood, you meet your neighbors. It's a good way to see people, and I've actually got people now wanting to help me, so it's a good thing. A couple of things Councilman Balls brought up, the Ojibwe Park. I too wrote the manager today and Phil, and I said it really looks great. The boulders are actually adding to like more landscaping. I'm way beyond what I expected. So great work for our staff. I'm excited to see that come complete because we are looking to have some sort of reopening of the island again. And then this past week, we had some of my council member colleagues. We had an invitation with other folks from the City Planning Commission and others that we toured the General Motors plant, and there is a new expansion that's coming in there. I'm super excited about it after we had a chance to see it. So they're investing over $150 million into the next generation V8 engines, and with all this investment here in Saginaw, the 300 jobs that were there could have been just a few people left to keeping the lights on in the plant. So keeping those jobs, and also the economic development. There is some expansion coming, so we could see some more jobs in there as well. And they do hire through the Michigan Works Department, so if anybody's interested, that's where you need to apply. And last, an event that's coming up that I always enjoy every year is the Michigan Banners Heart of the City Awards. Those will be June 4th this year. They'll be at 5 p.m. here at the Horizon Center on State Street, so you can visit their website or their Facebook page for more information on that. Thanks. That's all I have.
Thank you. Next, we have Mayor Pro Tem Garcia.
Good evening, concerned citizens of the community. Thank you for our speakers coming and speaking out about the housing and parking ordinance. It's always important to hear from our citizens what's going on in our community. I also want to say thanks to the proclamation for Mental Health Month. I actually sit on the board with some of the people that were here for Bayside. I'm on their advisory board. I've been on it probably for the last 2 years. But I go there all the time and just go and see the staff and how everybody's doing, and they help with employment, housing, and things like that, transportation. They do activities outside of being there at the facility. So it's really nice to get to see them come and see me this time, because I always stop in there. And at Thanksgiving, they have a really great dinner that they do dinners and stuff. So I want to thank them for coming out. And just say that this past weekend, it was pretty decent weather. We had a really nice Cinco de Mayo parade. My cousin was a coordinator, Dolores Cameron. She did an excellent job. We were down here off of Urza, and I got stuck by the water, of course, so I was freezing. My grandson got to participate, and my whole family, so it was a really nice event. For the city, we had a lot of people show out, so it was really nice. And last night as well, I went to the K-Onda at the SBRC Marketplace, and it was a great turnout, even though it was chilly because it was by the water. It was a really great event, had a lot of different vendors and food and stuff, so it was nice celebrating the Cinco de Mayo. here back at home where I belong in the city. So just not too much going on. They got some great events, like we're doing Clean Up the City, so I'll be there. They have a Latino resource fair this Saturday starting at noon that I'll be attending as well. So there's a lot of great events. Just make sure that you're keeping your eyes out on Facebook. They have a lot of different food giveaways. I know the Radiant Church every Friday usually has one at noon. That's a drive-through service. So there's a lot of great resources and organizations that are really trying to help people. Last week I was able to stop by the Saginaw CAC and they were giving out oranges, milk, eggs, and they actually bought their trailer that was part of their ARPA out in the community, and they were able to reach people out of the community, not there at their main office. So it was really nice stopping and seeing Hurley Coleman III working and doing it as a director. Not all time directors are willing to go out of their community, but he goes above and beyond, and I thank him for doing that because it takes a great leader to step out of their comfort zone and do things like that. So I was with CAC for 5 years, so I really appreciate that, and he was going out to Chesaning and St. Charles, and there is a need out there. So I appreciate his efforts for that as well because the need is definitely there for everybody, especially with the gas prices. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Well, it's my turn. Once again, thank you, our public speakers. Some things we can fix, some things we can't. I wish I was bewitched and I could twiddle my nose and I could just fix all of the problems. The last 2 weeks have been exciting. I met with Ontario, the Prime Minister, Dr. Douglas Ford at SVSU on Saturday for graduation. As you know, they are part of our sister city. They are excited. They are truly excited about the way Saginaw is starting to blossom. We exchanged information, and again, we just 2 years ago adopted Barrie, Ontario, and some of us went to visit. And so they're challenging us to come and visit Ontario so that we can see how they can show us a good time as well. I also went to a 100-year celebration of the Elks, the Epsilon 647, which we all know as the Elks. The Elks has been around 100 years, and they really contribute a lot in the community. Not just fish dinners on on Monday. While I'm sitting in here, they're eating fish. They actually do a lot as it relates for the kids. This Saturday is cleanup. The Rotary Club, we cut a spot for TV5, and I just encourage people to come out. Again, I need to correct the statement that's always being said, it's the mayor's. No, it's not. It's the citizens' cleanup. We don't do it once a year, we do it twice a year, thanks to when did we changed it when we had the Memorial Cup. We went from once a year to twice a year. Please keep in mind, I encourage you to clean up, not just those 2 times. Clean up. Clean up. Like I tell everybody, clean up. We got company coming. And we don't want our house dirty when we got company coming into our city. It has been an enjoyable last 2 weeks. I helped celebrate a 105-year-old, a 100-year-old, a 103-year-old birthday. So when you wonder what I do, that's what I do. I show up and show out. And these individuals not only got a certificate from the council, they also got a pin to Saginaw, which they probably will carry to their grave, because one lady told me I was putting it on wrong. You're doing it wrong. I'll do it. And I'm like, no problem. You can do it. I'd also like to thank the young men for my new cap. Thank you, Madam Clerk.
On to reports from the manager.
Mr. Manager.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So we do have 2 presentations this evening, but just a few items before that. As council members mentioned, we did have a tour at General Motors plant here. I do want to thank them for inviting us, and we had a pretty big crowd there. So we did accommodate council members, staff, and the planning commission, and that The mayor and I did meet with their governmental rep and a few of their engineers earlier this year. They had a project they want to talk about, and they may have needs for zoning variances and things like that. So I did encourage them, bring council members and planning staff to your site so you all can see what's going on there, what the projects are. So I think that's really helpful, and I think there could be potential other opportunities to have staff meet with them and talk about some of the things they want to do there on site. So we'll continue interacting with them and continue those discussions. I know a council member said there are 300 employees in there. Now I think Councilman Ostash said that was part of the presentation. They were already down, I think, maybe around 220 a few years ago. So that's actually an increase. So that's exciting as well that they're utilizing that facility. The Saginaw Police Department Award Ceremony is going to be Wednesday, May 13th at 11 a.m. So that's next week at the Police Department headquarters, 612 Federal Avenue. The annual ceremony recognizes officers, civilian staff, and community partners for outstanding service, professionalism, life-saving actions, and dedication to the residents of Saginaw. So I want to thank Chief Ruth and the entire police department for their work that they do every day to serve and protect our community. Of course, members of council are invited, and so the entire community is as well.
Sorry, did you say 11?
It's the 13th,
Yeah.
May 13th at 11 a.m.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Also, we invite you to join the city's Department of Planning and Economic Development for an informative event to review findings and gather feedback on the city's housing and economic development strategy. This open house style workshop will provide the opportunity for residents and stakeholders to learn more about housing preferences, market demand, economic trends, and strategies to promote new investment. Please join staff Tuesday, May 19th from 5 to 7 p.m. at the Hoyt Library. And attendees are encouraged and welcome to attend and come and leave at any time during that event as well. It's an open house. So a few of the other items. The mayor mentioned Premier Doug Ford was here at SVSU last weekend. A few years ago, Governor Whitmer and Doug Ford signed a commerce and trade type agreement. I don't know that it's a binding agreement, but that's part of our initiative that we had with Barrie, Ontario, was commerce and trade. So I do think that they are, Premier Ford mentioned an additional economic development tour in Ontario. So if council members are interested, we'll keep you updated on that when that may occur. I think it's probably with the Premier, it would focus more on the Toronto area, but that is within an hour of our sister city, Barrie, Ontario, too. And it's, I think we did have a group go there recently, too, but always good to meet with them and have an exchange. Councilwoman Hammond, I know she mentioned a few times a sign-up form on the city's website for cleanups, for neighborhood cleanups. We do have a form available online. We're going to work at making that much easier to find and potentially adding some of the things that she suggested with if you want to try to get assistance with our cleanup crews or some of the equipment that you might need for the neighborhood. We'll add that to the form so that can be requested as well. And just one other item, I know from a few comments, we talk about saving for new housing or upkeep on housing, classes like that. I encourage everyone to look at Habitat for Humanity. They have a number of classes that they offer from ranging from new buyer classes, in the home buying process classes, and homeowner classes. They have a home maintenance class for new homeowners. Yeah. That's one of them they offer. That's a very good class. They offer Is It Better to Rent or Buy? Courses like that, financial readiness courses, do's and don'ts for mortgages and loans. So it's a great source for that information. It's on the Habitat for Humanity website, and our staff does work with them on some of those classes too. So they're available out there. So with that, I'd like to move into our presentations. The first one we have is with Alexis Farrell, Senior Planner with McKenna Associates. She's going to provide an update on the city's 5-year consolidated plan and the annual plan for the community development block grant programs.
All right, good evening. I do have a slide deck prepared tonight. Okay. All right. So good evening again, and thank you for having me tonight. I've been working with Kana and her team over the last 6 or so months on preparing the updated consolidated plan. I also wanted to thank Councilwoman Carly for making that distinction between what the Human Planning Commission voted on earlier in terms of recommendations and then what this is. And so I'll talk about what the consolidated plan is and really want to focus on what we heard during community engagement and then what takeaways we have inserted into the plan to guide the city over the next 5 years of this future spending. And so before I dive in, I wanted to just quickly acknowledge all of the efforts of city staff, volunteers, commission members, as well as council members that were able to come to our event in December, who are here tonight offering your feedback. The plan is a required part of receiving this entitlement funding. But we didn't want this to be something where we're just trying to check the box, right? It's something that the city is required to do, and so while we're at it, we might as well make it fruitful and make sure that we're getting some good discussion going and building upon all of the efforts that the city's already doing with regard to community and economic development. And so I spoke a little bit about this earlier, but again, just to reiterate, what is the consolidated plan? And really what it is these various funding programs from the federal government for entitlement communities used to have different reporting mechanisms. And so at a certain point, it came to be too onerous both for the federal level and the local level to be putting together 5 different reports. And so the consolidated plan came to be where there's a lot of crossover in what these funds cover. And so the consolidated plan really is a process to, again, take a look, take stake in where are we at in terms of our housing and economic development. What are our incomes? What are the trends over the last 5 years since the prior plan was done? These are required to be updated every 5 years. And how are we going to focus that funding in the future so that we can continue to make progress in regard to, again, supporting folks that are experiencing homelessness, supporting folks that may be struggling in between jobs. It really gets at the social service network that we have here in the city. And again, one of the requirements is the outreach, and so I'll talk about that in just a moment. Just briefly speaking to what each program is. Again, CDBG is the most flexible of the programs. It can really cover a variety of different activities, anything from a lot of the activities that were mentioned here tonight, something like a cleanup event where we're bringing community together, mental health services, something where we're, again, supporting folks that are struggling, and revitalizing neighborhoods. This is something I've heard a lot already tonight, how we want to bring community together and continue to invest in our neighborhoods. And then moving on to the home, this is the Home Investment Partnerships Program, and this is aimed specifically at housing stocks. So types of activities include developing actual housing itself, so During our public hearing, we had a comment about wanting to see more focus on new housing in addition to rehabilitation. This is something that we have talked about during this process. And so I'll talk a little bit about that as we get further into the presentation. And then also, this can support both home ownership programs as well as rental assistance programs. And it's really important that both ends of the spectrum are invested in and supported so that folks, whatever type of housing model that they are seeking, can be supported. And then moving on to the ESG, the Emergency Solutions Grant, formerly the Emergency Shelter Grant. This is specifically honing in on support for folks experiencing homelessness. We know this is a pervasive problem in the city of Saginaw. We had another public comment here tonight about that. And what I will say is there is already so much happening in the city to support these groups and these folks. And a lot of what I'll be presenting here tonight, I don't think will be anything brand new to you. I think it's probably no news flash what I'll be presenting in terms of our findings. And so I'll keep moving on into our public engagement. So again, in December, we had basically a marathon day of engagement here in this room. In the morning, we started with a focus group and then moved on to another one in the afternoon. And then in the evening, we had an open house. And I think my biggest takeaway from this day was that there was so much positivity and so much enthusiasm in terms of the folks that came out, wanted to provide input. I think that there's so much animosity in our country right now, right? So to see the community come out and say, hey, we know we've got some challenges still, but we're here, we're excited, we want to contribute, we want to know what the city is up to, was really encouraging. Okay, so to dive into some of the findings. So in the morning, we had a focus group, and the attendees were sort of a broad swath of community organizations. Many of these organizations are subrecipients of this funding. So what that means is with our Human Planning Commission, grants, the grants that the city receives, applications are released so that these organizations can essentially do this work on behalf of the city. There's also money that is allocated to the city itself, but these subrecipients are really a key part of what makes this whole program work so well. And so in the morning, we had these groups as well as a few council members come out and talked about generally all of these topics. So a few things that we heard is that the housing crisis between today and 5 years ago when we did the Consolidated Plan has only gotten worse. And this is something that we are seeing all over the state, all over the country, and continuing to try to come up with innovative ways to tackle that. And so a few things that we talked about were missing middle housing. So there's a lot of single-family housing in the city. There's a lot of multifamily, but there isn't as much in between. And so what we mean by in between are things like a duplex or even a quad where there's 4 units. It might look just like a single-family home, but it can fit additional folks and cut down on costs. And so that was something that we talked about, and how could we fit this in with, again, the other efforts on the city in terms of planning and zoning updates, as well as collaboration between these neighborhood organizations, these community organizations, as well as both the city and the private sector. So we had a builder in the room, a home builder, and he had a lot to say about wanting to contribute to this work and how he could plug his team in. And so talked a lot about collaboration and how to best leverage these funds. Earlier, I mentioned that the funding at the federal level has been very unpredictable. And so the allocation for the coming year has remained at about the same level, but that may not be the case in the coming years. It's a change that we're seeing between the federal administrations. And so collaborating and seeing how we can leverage these funds together is going to be really important moving forward. Moving on to our afternoon focus group, this honed in specifically on our subrecipients for the ESG grant, and so homelessness prevention and service providers, shelters, and we had a very similar conversation at this focus group about collaboration. My big takeaway from this meeting was that there's a lot of familiarity amongst the organizations. They all know each other. They seem to communicate regularly. And they talked about, well, we need to do this more often. We need to continue to get together. And again, thinking back 5 years when we did this plan last time, the change in trends during that time is that the needs have only continued to increase. And so talking about cost of living increases, continuing housing price increases, and talking about how can we continue to provide the service we have been with fewer and fewer resources per person. And then moving on to speak to our open house, we had a variety of stations and activities set up around the room. The first one is my personal favorite, where we ask folks the story of their home. And really this exercise is meant to just get folks thinking about their neighborhood, thinking about, why do I live in Saginaw? Is this my hometown? Am I a transplant maybe? And we heard a lot of different things. So one of the major themes is that there are a lot of generational homeowners, folks that inherited their home from their grandmother or their father, and the sense of pride that they had in that. There's a lot of pride in being from Saginaw, and we got a couple of Saginawsome notes in there, and we have all of the raw stories that I've provided to Kana, and I really encourage you guys, if you have the opportunity to read them, they are just mostly very uplifting, encouraging stories about folks' neighborhoods. But we also, of course, heard concerns and challenges. And again, it's a lot of the same themes that we've been hearing in terms of lack of quality in some of the housing stock, concerns with vacancy in certain areas, and how that affects the broader neighborhood itself. Just the feeling of safety and community. And so, in addition, we had these boards set up around the room where folks could add sticky notes and comments. We asked folks to look at the goals from the last plan and basically help us understand, are these still fruitful? Are these still resonating with you? Do we need to change anything? And the resounding theme on this was that keep doing what we're doing. There's a lot of support for what's already happening, and we want to see more of that in the future. And then to point out a couple of key topic areas. In terms of goals, there's, of course, a lot of popularity amongst the home repair programs. Those have been very successful. One thing that someone here tonight mentioned was about our youth. That was a big topic as well during our morning focus group in terms of helping youth get connected with career preparation, possibly apprenticeship programs in the trades that could then support building new housing stock, and how can we create this holistic system of housing development within the city and by the city. And then, again, speaking to the theme of building off of what's already happening. So we had initially, when we started this project, scoped a separate survey that we wanted to release to the community. Once we got going, realized that there was already the existing neighborhood housing and economic development survey out there, and so rather than have two surveys and confuse folks and ask them to answer everything again, the planning department was helpful in sharing that with us, and we got some additional survey responses at our event. And so the next couple of slides just talk about what we heard in that, and again, it's a lot of the same themes, talking about condition of homes, again, vacancy, high cost of living, and then desired improvements, wanting to see infill on vacant lots, taking a look at the rental ordinance enforcement and further supporting and improving rental housing in the city, and then speaking a little bit to weatherization. So obviously, Michigan has really unpredictable winters. We had a very heavy snowy winter this last year, and that can be really tough on our homes, especially with the older housing stock. And then, let's see, so with this one, the header is covering the title here, but it says support for housing types across the city. I know the text is a little tiny to read, and I'm happy to get everyone a copy of the slide deck after this as well, but what I want to point out about this is that the tallest bar that you can see, this dark magenta color, is support for housing in existing neighborhoods. So what that says to me is that folks are welcoming of new housing in their neighborhoods. They are welcoming of all housing types. So each bar chart coupling here are housing types. So the first being single family, then duplexes, townhomes, accessory dwelling units, and then apartments over commercial units, and multifamily or 3 to 8 apartment size. And so that was really great to see that there's acceptance of new housing in the city. And then speaking to our last activity of the evening, which was our kitchen table map. This was a massive 6-foot-tall map that we had, and we really wanted to make sure that there was an opportunity for folks to show us if there were specific areas in the city that they wanted to see improvements. And so we asked them specifically about roadway improvements. We know that was something that the city is looking for input on, as well as point out to us what your assets in the city are. What do you want to see more of? What do you want to see repeated in other areas of the city? Feedback included things like more parks and green space. And in terms of housing, again, lots of support for new housing development and diverse housing types. And I will mention that this map we have digitally as well. And the way the activity worked is people could put a sticky dot and then write a comment, and that comment is associated with that dot. We have this available to share with you so that, again, over the next 5 years, as place-based funding comes up and conversations come up, this can be referenced to help guide decision-making. Okay. Now, to speak a little bit to the data and analysis that is included in this plan. I'm not sure if everyone's had a chance to really dive in. It's a 200-page plan. It's a little dense. It is very heavily influenced by the questions that the federal government has in these. It's basically a portal where we respond to certain prompts. And so just to speak a little bit to some of the trends that we're seeing. Again, the header is cutting it off a bit here, but I wanted to just speak a little bit to income. And the reason this is so important is that a lot of the funding eligibility relies on income data. So in terms of CDBG specifically, there has to be at least 51% of the households in that census tract have to be considered low to moderate income for it to be eligible for funding investment. And so what you see here is the breakdown of different types of households. So each color is a different size of a family. We've got small family households, 2 to 4 members. We have large family households at 4 or more members. We have elderly broken out here, and then there's an other category that within the data, it doesn't really further tell us what's in there, but it's kind of a catch-all for folks who may be living with roommates or in a different kind of situation. And so what's important about this is based on a percentage of the median household income, which for Saginaw County is $80,000. We know that across the county, there are other communities that are pulling that number up, and that's not maybe the trend within the city. Unfortunately, the way that the legislature is written, the legislation, it's done on a broader basis than just the city. And so what that means is for 30% of the area median income, which comes out to be about $24,000 a year, we have a higher proportion of folks that are in large family households. I don't think that's surprising, because if you're maybe a family with many young children, it's going to be maybe more difficult to have a dual income household. And again, all of this information is really drilled down into within the plan and then used as a basis for how we're going to address some of the trends that we're seeing in that data. And then in terms of housing affordability, in the darker, more purple color on the left side, we're looking at just total households at that income level. So on the bottom, we've got between 0 to 30% of the area median income, 30 to 50%, 50 to 80, 80 to 100, and then 100 or more. And then in the pink bar chart on the right side, that is the number of units that are affordable to households at that income. And when we say affordable, the general rule of thumb is spending no more than 30% of your household income on housing. So when we look at the groups that are making $24,000 a year or less, what the data is telling us is that there are no housing units that are affordable at that price. And so there's a major mismatch, and again, this is a trend that we're seeing across the state, across the country. This is what we're getting at when we say there's a housing crisis, and this is why these social service programs and funding are so critical, because they can start to move the needle as much as possible in terms of helping address this mismatch. And then to break it out between renters and homeowners, this is showing, again, different breakdown of household types and how many of those from renter households are cost burden. So if they are paying more than 30% of their income towards housing, and what we're seeing is that folks that are elderly are often struggling in this realm. They, of course, have fixed incomes most often, and then again, large families, folks with maybe multiple kids, more than 2 children, are also more likely to be cost burdened. And then showing this again, but for homeowner households. Now, again, I will say these are trends that we're seeing in many places, and not necessarily something that is a problem that Saginaw by itself can wholly address, but again, it's about filling the gaps and doing as much as we can to move the needle. So moving back into our outreach, following our day in December, there were a few groups and individuals that we really wanted to make sure we had a chance to talk to who maybe weren't able to come to the event. And so I just wanted to acknowledge that and thank them for their time and their insight. Interviews are an interesting form of outreach because they can get very personalized and individualized, and my colleagues and I had a really, again, just positive experience with everyone. When you're looking at charts that are telling you that there's cost burden and there's no affordable housing units, it can get to be very bleak and feel a bit overwhelming, right? But everyone that we spoke to was very solution-oriented, and I think that's just so important. Okay, so getting into the plan itself, what I have up here are the plan goals. Now, what I will say is the goals themselves have not changed from our last 5-year plan. Part of the reason for that is because they are still relevant, they are still goals that the city wants to continue to focus on, and the main change that we did here is move the number 2 spot, which is increase quality and affordability of rental housing, up to that number 2 spot. So previously, this was lower on the totem pole, and while these are all very important, we wanted to just demonstrate that while there has been a strong emphasis on home ownership support, there's also been an identified need to really focus in on rental assistance and assistance for renters. And so I think, again, this was mentioned earlier tonight, but each year the trend has been that the city is receiving a little, about $3 million in this entitlement funding each year. These numbers were just released actually a few weeks ago by HUD, and so we, for the majority of this planning process, we're basing all of our information off of the prior year funding and kind of just crossing our fingers, hoping that Congress did not cut as much as some of the members wanted to, right? And so thankfully, the majority of this funding has been maintained. This is something that the city will have to really keep a close eye on over the next 5 years. And again, there was also almost $500,000 in reprogrammable funds. And what that means is these are funds that were maybe not fully spent from prior program year, as well as income that was gained through the programs. And this is something that I think can be continued to leverage over the years. As much as you can add on to this funding, the better. And then this really concludes my presentation. Over the next couple of slides, I've got all of our different recommendations from both the Human Planning Commission as well as the city manager's recommendations for the proposed budget. Now, I was not at the Human Planning Commission meetings where these applications were reviewed and discussed and had the subrecipients come up and present their case, but we do have Ms. Valerie here tonight as well as Ms. Kana, and so I'd encourage you, if you have specific questions about some of these line items, they can help fill in some of that gap. But that's the presentation, and I'm happy to answer questions.
Do we have any questions? Yes, Councilwoman.
Thank you. I have a couple of very specific questions on the Consolidated Action Plan. Are you prepared to answer them?
Sure.
Okay. I was aghast at a couple of the statistics in severe housing problems. Question on methodology before I ask the meat of this question, just to verify. When we're talking about housing problems and looking at these charts, what is the methodology? Are you surveying and getting a capture of all renters and all homeowners, or is this a sample size survey? Can you tell me about how we got to these numbers?
That's a great question, and this is actually something that we've struggled with a bit during this process. So with the Consolidated Plan, the majority of the analysis is done within a program that's called IDIS. This is a program that the federal government has created so that applicants for the federal funding across the country can upload the Consolidated Plan. So what you see in the draft is actually downloaded from this platform. The way that the platform works is that it's got all of these questions, and this includes the charts and the quantitative questions. The way that the program is set up is that the census data, census is where the majority of the information is coming from. The census data is auto-filled into this program based on the most recently available information. Now, what we've struggled with a bit is when we looked at this auto-populated information, we noticed that there was a good deal that was outdated or maybe not aligned with what we're currently seeing on the ground. Because it's in such a rigid sort of system, what you can do is you can upload your own custom data. So you can override this pre-populated information, but we've done that only in specific instances. And the reason why is that we want to make sure that we're meeting HUD's requirements. They have made it very clear that they are looking at specific data sets. So for example, the CDBG eligible census tracts. It's been stated that for the next 10 years, they will continue to use the 2016 to 2020 ACS data. What that means is it's data that's averaged and compared over those 5 years from 2016 to 2020. It's not a full census like we have every 10 years, but it's called the American Community Survey. So it's pretty good stuff, but it's not a true sample size to answer that part of your question. I don't quite know why they're wanting to stick with this old information, because we have seen releases of upwards to 2024 data from the census. Why they want to go back and still continue to use 2020, we're not quite sure, but we've tried to be really strategic about using the information that they have provided us and also add some more recent context.
And the one statistic I just found astounding is that it said that 43% of renters are experiencing severe housing problems. Is that an accurate assessment, that 43% of total renters in the city of Saginaw are experiencing a severe housing problems?
So, if you had a specific section that you recall pulling this from, I'd be happy to pull that out. The reason I'm asking is because when you say severe housing problems, I think what you were looking at was, again, the cost. So when we talk about 30% being considered affordable, spending 30% of your income on housing, that number of 43% experiencing severe cost burden would not surprise me.
Yeah, and just to follow up, it says severe housing problems defined as severe overcrowding, cost burdens of greater than 50% of income, housing that lacks complete plumbing or kitchen facilities, or household with zero or negative income. And that says in Saginaw about 43% of renters and 22% of owners experience severe housing problems.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Yes. And I think that really what's driving that number up is the rent. It is very, very difficult to mitigate rent costs as a municipality, because really if you have a landlord that wants to rent out at a market rate, they get to decide that market rate. And so it's something, again, that we're seeing many communities deal with, particularly on the renter side. And that's part of why we wanted to make that a higher priority over the next 5 years, because often there's this sense that, well, renters are more transient, they're not really a part of the community. But what we know is that achieving home ownership has been much more difficult and continues to get more difficult. And so many people are being forced to rent because they have no other option. And then you're getting pressure on the rental stock, and that's driving costs up.
Councilman Balls, right back to you. Did we think about any solutions to these problems? I mean, because it seems like we need to have we need to have something like a job corps here where we can teach kids how to build houses, or young people to build houses. And then I would build up the housing stock and give them a job at the same time, and maybe that'll cut down on the crime because they're too tired to go through the crime, but they got a job.
Yeah.
I mean, so
Absolutely.
I'm seeing like we can fix this, but what are the solutions
Yeah.
that we talk about?
Yeah, thank you. And now that you've pointed that out, I recognize that I didn't hone in as much in my presentation on the goals and how we're planning for the future, but that exact idea is something that we discussed at one of the focus groups back in December. We had a gentleman from Building Power who talked about that very idea of, can we bring in young folks to have an apprenticeship? Right. Then that leads into housing development. It gives them some career preparation and professional experience. Right. And the way that the program is set up is, again, the allocations come out, and there are the sub-recipients that apply through this process with the Human Planning Commission. And so within the Consolidated Plan itself, there's the strategic plan and then the action plan. In the strategic plan, it talks about the goals and then dives in deeper, how are we going to accomplish these goals? And so with that, that's sort of the guiding document for when each year with the action plan, what do we end up funding? And so for this year, we have the recommended allocations for all of the organizations. And so
Well, I see where they requested, but I don't see where they got anything.
Yeah, I see you.
So,
Did they?
yeah, I think we just haven't quite got to that step of the process this year, but maybe Kana can speak to that.
So Building Power asked for money in CDBG for new construction, but you can't use CDBG for new construction. So if you look at the last page, he was awarded some dollars in the home program, so he can start his new construction program.
How much was that?
He was given recommended $73,000. He is working with some other grant applications. He's trying to get money for Youth Build. And he was working with the school district on Longfellow, but they had the fire, so he's looking for a new location. But his entire business is about exactly what you're talking about, a youth training program. So we are working with him as much as we can. We don't want to give him too much money before he's poised to use it. But we did give him an allocation.
Well, I know
we recommended an allocation.
Okay, he's been in business for a long time.
He has been in business for a long time as a contractor.
Yes.
Yes, but the actual school and apprenticeship program is new for him. And so he's putting his infrastructure together, looking for more money, looking for a place, working with the learning institutions to get the students.
Good. I'm just saying, because I just think there could be a win-win for the city of Saginaw.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yes.
most people that come here and build houses, they build them on the outskirts. They don't live here.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we don't get no bang for our buck because they taking care of them people, and the people here in the city not getting anything. You know, we're not getting no training for our youth. And,
Yeah, so he is working with the land bank too. He has found some property, and now he's just got to layer the
Okay.
funds to be able to move forward.
all right, thank you.
You got a question for Candy before she sit down?
Actually, well, she can listen to what I have to say, but I know exactly that person that you're talking about, and I helped work on that Longfellow project with him before Kevin passed away. Of course, there was a fire in the school, but I'm really happy to hear that he is still pushing forward, because I know his dedication to what, when he believes in something, he'll go after it, so good luck. I'll have to give him a call. But as you were talking and just having a conversation with Councilwoman Hammond, I really started to clue into these numbers, because you're right, like the 30% is like the measurement of where we are, and we're pushing this 43. But Saginaw too has had its challenges with lost housing due to blight. And so when you lose your stock, the demand and costs go up. So even if it might not be the most desirable housing location, trying to, you know, they can get the price because the person needs the house, and that's driving. So I think as we move forward in the city, and where I see the Saginaw going now with the economic development in the Diamond and what's happening with the rezoning of neighborhoods, especially my neighborhood, and the opportunities that we'll have over there. If you talked about ADUs and quads and row housing, that is all available now, with small commercial built into the neighborhood too. I think we're gonna eventually see this shift, so as we wanna bring more people in, but then I think there'll be a focus on this housing, especially with the Diamond coming in, because there is housing as part of some of those projects. I mean, some of it's student housing, but it's a spiral effect as you start to build from the inside out again. So that was really interesting that you brought that up, because I was unaware of that statistic. So thanks for having that conversation with me.
Yeah, and you know, what I will say about that is it's a good thing to see property values increase, right? That maybe was a problem for many years, but now it's almost gone way over it's increased too quickly. And so, again, I repeated this many times, but the city is already doing a lot of what I would have recommended in terms of, again, like you mentioned, the zoning changes and other ancillary tasks that you could do to help address some of these issues outside of just this funding, so.
I got one more question.
Okay, thank you.
If you get a chance.
Yes, Councilwoman.
Thank you. Just a quick question about, you mentioned large families as part of the study. Did the large family portion include multi-generational, or just like core family?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, like I mentioned before, all of this data primarily comes from the census, and so it doesn't tell us specifically what the makeup is, but it does include both multi-generational, not just the nuclear family, and so absolutely there could be a lot of that in Saginaw as well, and really that's something that we are seeing as a solution to the housing crisis, you know, having an accessory dwelling unit for grandma and grandpa to come live in, or even for if you have a student in college to live in, they get some independence, but you're still sharing that cost for housing.
Yeah, sharing that cost, because, you know, I know a lot of families that, you know, that the parents, the kids, maybe they're got married, had a kid, you know, so that happens a lot in this area.
Yeah.
So I'm just curious if that was a part of the study. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure that you said this is a work in progress.
Yes, absolutely.
It can be changed, it can be modified based on, no, I need to make that clear. Because sometimes we hear it and we don't hear it.
Right.
And then we start attacking the wrong things, when in actuality, you're telling us up front again, that's why I always ask that question, is this a working document?
Yes, absolutely.
And then I appreciate you when it comes to talking to where residents understand. Because you can talk about all the numbers in the world, and all of the do's and the don'ts and the maybes and the iffies and the this, but if it don't apply to me, as a resident, I'm not really listening to it. So when you come, and I suggest this to anybody that comes to Saginaw, talk to us, not at us.
Yeah.
And you will get a whole lot more done.
Right.
But thank you so much. I love the presentation, but you're not done. I just needed to get mine in before.
Thank you.
Councilman Ball.
I'll just, do we have a study, and maybe this is for Kana, if we allocate $200,000 to tear down houses, do we take a look at the house and see if we put the money that you would tear it down with, could that repair the house? Or could we make somebody a homeowner if we done situations like that? And then maybe they can come in with maybe some bank money and help out too.
So the only houses that are candidates for demolition are ones that they passed the reasonable test. So we have to do a cost estimate of what it would cost to put that house back into service.
You do that?
We do that for every house that we
Okay.
demolish. And the only ones that we demolish with CDBG are the ones that are past any type of reasonableness test to put it back into service.
Okay, thank you.
Look, Councilwoman.
Thank you. I had a question on, I did not see Housing Forward referenced as a planning effort or as an agency that was consulted in this discussion. Is there a particular reason why? They're the Region G state housing assistance provider? Or not housing assistance provider, but they're planning agency.
Yeah, definitely not something that was done intentionally. We wanted to make sure we captured as much input as we possibly could. And I do think that, like Mayor Moore mentioned, it's a work in progress. And if that's been a gap that we've missed, we can absolutely engage them.
Okay. Councilman, when you through Councilwoman Hammond, were you done?
I had an additional question, but Councilman Osich has the floor. Oh, okay. I was wondering about the specific, I have on page 106, we have the strategic recommendations for the next, it's the strategic plan overview. I think it's the first page, so in the documents that are uploaded online through the agenda, it's the consolidated action plan is like in the middle, and then there's also the yearly action plan. So I think the strategic plan for this year's is like page 1, but it's actually page 106. So just that's what, so I'm looking at all three. That's why it's confusing.
Okay.
Because we're kind of considering all three today. But the priority talks about cities' facilities improvement, and then there was a rental allocation I saw that was budgeted for $400,000. It did not, it was not recommended from the Human Planning Commission or in the city manager's proposed budget. I was just wondering, what was the nature of that rental housing assistance program? Because I was looking at it, it was in the strategic plan, it was proposed. But yeah, I was just wondering what the nature of it was and if there's a particular reason why there was no money recommended.
So there's an application, and it was just to do some upgrades to rental housing. It was to bring an old rental housing program back. And so we would help landlords with a loan, and they would borrow money at a low interest rate, and then they would guarantee low-income tenants for 10 years. And so that loan is a low interest rate, and it comes with a small grant that could be forgiven if the tenants were low income for 10 years. It was not funded. There was some, I'm just paraphrasing on behalf of the Human Planning Commission, but there was some concern about landlords being a business, and that the true beneficiary of the program was going to be enriching the landlords and not getting to the tenants as much as they wanted the money to get to the tenants. So for rental, they chose to go with the Saginaw Housing Commission instead, and then they offered that we do some more homework putting together a rental program that didn't enrich the landlords as much as they thought that one would.
Thank you very much.
Any other questions? Thank you so much, both of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Mr. Manager.
So our next presentation is our FY 2027 budget, and I'd like to thank OMB Director Yolanda Bland and her budget team, including Jonathan Baker, who's here, and Tom Raines for their work and coordination in preparing the city's annual budget. This work that they do to get to this point takes 5 to 6 months. So it's a lot of work that goes into it. It's not an easy task, and also I'd like to thank our department heads and division heads who put a lot of work into their individual budgets as well. So Yolanda?
I'd like to make a motion to support. Right now.
The presentation. The presentation. Here we go. Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem, council members, City Manager Morales. Tonight, I'd like to talk to you, give you a quick overview of the 27 budget. And as the City Manager has already mentioned, with me tonight is Jonathan Baker. He's in the corner back here. He's our budget analyst. He's a budget analyst too. Yep, not a problem. So copies of the budget has been available to City Council since April 27th in accordance with the City Charter. We've also provided to you our detailed budget presentation. So again, tonight is just the abbreviated version. The other one is much longer. The 27 proposed budget will be available at City Hall at 1315 South Washington Avenue in the City Clerk's office. It is available on the city's website. Tonight is our first discussion on the budget. We're planning a public hearing for May 18th and planned adoption date to be on May 18th as well. You were also provided a presentation from Phil Carwatt on the rubbish collection fund and from Mike Grenier on the water and sewer operation and maintenance funds. Also, you'll find our budget at a glance that we put together for you to make it easy to follow. That is also listed on the city's website. Okay. The 27 budget. Our 27 proposed budget continues to reflect our commitment to provide quality services to our residents while preserving our financial viability. The total citywide budget is $230.65 million. This represents a decrease of $26.88 million, or roughly a little more than 13% from the previous fiscal year resources. Our general fund budget is projected to be $46.18 million, and this budget actually increases about $1.3 million, or about a little bit more than 2% from the prior year. The non-general fund budgets, everything outside of the general fund, accounts for almost 80% of the total budget. Next, I wanted to show you a slide on our historical cities budget from 2023 through the 27 budget. The citywide budget itself, as you can see, steadily increases up until fiscal year 26, where it goes down a little bit, but then increases again to $230.65 million, and you can see that the general fund budget continues to increase. So I want to take a minute to talk about the challenges that are facing the cities. As we prepare the budget, we're real intimate with the numbers and looking at the economy and everything. And so I wanted to discuss 3 areas that we feel are challenges areas for us. Cost of services is one of the areas. The city of Saginaw continues to provide significant financial pressure, faces significant financial pressure associated with rising costs. A primary driver is the increasing cost of employee health care benefits, which places substantial strain on the city's ability to maintain a comprehensive level of service delivery. In addition, municipalities such as Saginaw are experiencing a sustained increase in the cost of goods and services necessary for daily operation. rising costs for fuel, utilities, equipment, vehicle maintenance, contracted services, technology, construction materials have further constrained the limited financial resources that we have. And inflationary pressures and ongoing supply chain disruptions continue to compound those challenges, making it increasingly difficult to sustain a full service delivery operational model without additional funding sources. Another area of concern has been our other post-employment benefits and pension liabilities. These remain a significant concern for the city of Saginaw. And the fiscal year 2027 budget continues to address these long-term obligations through dedicated contributions to retiree health care and pension costs. To improve the long-term sustainability of pension obligation, the city re-amortized its pension liabilities. 2027 is the 5th year of this implementation under the revised contribution schedule. Additionally, retiree health care costs have increased about 20% for fiscal year 2007, reflecting the continued upward pressure on healthcare markets and associated benefit costs. And as you know, oftentimes I talk about this one area, population loss. We've talked about it way back when, and it still continues to be a concern. The city of Saginaw continues to face long-standing financial challenges, with population decline remaining one of the most significant contributing factors. Several key revenue sources, including state shared revenue, property and income tax, federal entitlement funding, are directly tied to population levels. As the number of residents decreases, these revenue declines correspondingly. So there's an effect that way. The reduction limits the city's capacity to maintain essential services, invest in infrastructure, and support long-term growth. Furthermore, ongoing population loss can create a cyclical effect of reduced investment and financial strain through challenging the city's ability to stabilize its financial position and attract new residents. So, how has the city been able to manage these declining revenues? Well, one way that we've been able to do this or cope with this challenge has been through identifying and securing other revenue sources, such as grants. So we've been actively going after grants because of that. Next, let's talk about our resource allocation, or the fund types, because the discussion as we go further, we're going to talk about fund types. The breakdown of the $230.65 million is represented in this pie chart. General fund represents approximately 20% of the total budget. Special revenue funds represents a little more than 23% of the total budget. The largest budget is represented in our enterprise funds, which consists of our boat launch fund, water and sewer operations, and that's roughly 52%. Our internal service funds represents about 5% of the total budget, and our fiduciary funds represents less than 1% of the total budget. As you know, about a month or so ago, I came up and talked about our strategic plan and how KPIs relate to that. And this graph reflects the allocation of the 2027 budget to these initiatives. So as you know, back in August of 2025, City Council, the City Administration, and various members of the public came together and identified what these strategic initiatives would be. And as a result of the changes and what we've been going through or discussing, we have incorporated some of these changes into the budget. What you'll see, $112,000 for Parks and Recreation. This is a new division within the General Fund Department of Public Services. And then we added $200,000 in the Brownfield Redevelopment Authority from the revolving loan. Next, I'm going to start talking about the fund types, starting with the general fund. The general fund, which is our city's discretionary fund, again, represents 20% of the total citywide budget. The general fund, again, is $46.18 million, and this is an increase of $1.3 million, or a little more than 2%. You can find the general fund on pages 53 to 121 of the 27 budget. So let's talk about the departments of the general fund. Starting off with the Office of General Government, which is $4.14 million, there will be a $344,000 increase. These increases are directly related to step increases for salaries. We did not include the across-the-board increase because the city is currently in contract negotiations. So the individuals would receive just the step increase. Active healthcare benefits of all the departments of general government. This year's budget also includes the city attorney actually being in the budget instead of amendment to the budget that occurred at the end of last year for the 26 budget. We also see increases in the city clerk and election divisions due to the 2 elections that will occur in August and in November. And in the Office of Management and Budget, we continue to budget for our contract with Guidehouse. There is offsetting revenues to offset the cost of that expenditures. The department itself of general government will also be affected by increases to general liability insurance costs and information management charges. The Department of Fiscal Services, which is $3.54 million of this budget, will realize a $19,395 increase. And again, this is mainly due to step increases in active healthcare costs, and some contracted services. Police Department is at $17.96 million for 2027. And the personnel complement for the police department is 64 sworn and 25.6 civilian, making the total personnel complement of 89.6. This department actually decreases about $101,000. This reduction is largely due to the reduction and or completion of state and federal grants that were previously received. Other changes to departments includes an increase to personnel services due to step increases, increases to active and retiree healthcare costs. We also provided a market adjustment for the 7 school crossing guards, and we've had some personnel changes to include the addition of a tackling operator and a property and evidence clerk. These complement changes will be offset by the elimination of 2 part-time vacant skilled clerical positions, as well as an office assistant too. Furthermore, when we look at the miscellaneous expenditures for this department, it will reduce by $42,000, and this reduction is associated with a decrease in the debt service payments for the department. Community Public Safety Fire will be $10.06 million, and they have a complement of 41 sworn and 1 civilian, making a total complement of 42 in Community Public Safety Fire. Fire will realize a net increase of $128,343. Again, this is related to personnel services, largely related to personnel services for the same reasons that we just discussed. You have your step increases, and active and retiree healthcare costs actually go up. Operating services for this department increases roughly $38,000, and this increase is attributed to increases in general liability insurance and information management charges. There is no capital outlay budgeted for this department, and we will see an offset to both the personnel services and operating expenses due to a reduction in miscellaneous expenditures for debt service payments. The Department of Neighborhood Services and Inspections will be $2.4 million for fiscal year 2027. And this is a $43,329 increase, and this again is related to personnel services due to step increases in active healthcare costs. The Department of Public Services General Fund, for the general fund, is $5.37 million increase, or it'll be $5.37 million for 2027, and this is an increase of $351,000. And this department is related to, again, step increases, active healthcare increases, But they're also going to realize increases to information management charges, motor pool charges for fixed and variable also will go up. General liability insurance costs will go up. And then we added the new division of Parks and Recreation of $112,000. But again, this is, will be offset by corresponding revenues. And this also fulfills the initiative under Arts, Culture, and Recreation. They too will also see a decrease in their debt service payments. The last department of the general fund is other general fund expenditures, and it's $2.66 million for the year. And this is a decrease of 2% from the previous year. And this reduction is due to a reduction in the amount of money that was transferred out to other, to local street funds because of the cost allocation plan. So each year we have to do a cost allocation, and last year we had to have a payment from the general fund to another fund. So that's the general fund. Next fund type is the special revenue funds. And special revenue funds accounts for proceeds from specific revenue sources that are legally restricted to expenditures for specific purpose. Special revenue funds are on pages 122 to 228 of the approved budget. Special revenue funds for fiscal year 2027 is projected to be $53.96 million, and this is an actual decrease of $8.54 million, or roughly 14%. Again, this fund type accounts for 23% of the total citywide budget. So let's discuss some of the changes that have occurred for the special revenue funds. And I'm not going to go over every last one of them because you have the detailed budget presentation for that. I'm just going to highlight a few. First, the American Rescue Plan Act Fund. This fund was established to account for the ARPA grant dollars. And this fund will decrease over $7.2 million from the previous year. This reduction is due to the completion of council-approved activities as required by the grant agreement. Remember, this grant must be fully expended by December 31st of 2026, so December. The Capital Project Fund, this fund accounts for the financial resources that are used for long-term investment projects requiring large sums to acquire, develop, improve, and maintain capital assets. This fund will decrease a little more than $3 million. And for fiscal year 2027, the budget will be $496,183. This decrease is directly related to the completion of the City Hall HVAC renovation project. The State of Michigan Downtown Saginaw Medical Facility Fund will decrease about $1.27 million from 2026. And this fund will be budgeted at $20 million, and this fund is allocated towards breaking ground on the medical facility project. The Rubbish Collection Fund budget will be $5.34 million for fiscal year 27, and this is a net decrease of $72,650 from 2026. Although the fund overall decreases by $72,000, there will be an increase of the household rubbish fee from $240 to $250 in this budget. For more details on this change, please refer to the 2027 Rubbish Collection Fund presentation that was provided by Phil Carwatt. Okay, so these reductions will have an offset by some other funds within special revenues. Starting with the major street funds, this fund will realize a net increase of $2.3 million overall. The overall increase is attributed to increases in the state shared revenue. Revenues that are projected to be received are based on the changes at the state legislation level that allocated more funds to municipal streets. This increase will be largely realized in increase of projects planned citywide. So also, personnel services will see an increase due to step increases, active and retiree healthcare increases, but other expenses will increase as well. You'll see increases in your general liability insurance and planned construction projects that increase street projects, professional service, and engineering services projects. To offset the increase in personnel services and operating expenses, there will be a reduction in debt service payments for this fund. The local street fund will be $4.69 million for fiscal year '27, and this is an increase of $920,085. The reason for this increase is due to the city receiving the Saginaw County Road Millage funds in the amount of $1.2 million. As a result of receiving these funds, the Department of Public Services will be completing more construction projects as well as purchasing 2 plow trucks. A couple meetings ago, Travis Hare, who's our new Deputy Director of Public Services, did go over a list of projects that they were planning on doing with these additional funds. The public safety millage will be $3.89 million for fiscal year '27, and this is an increase of $207,000 from the previous year. This increase is due to increase in real property tax revenues. So again, this fund covers 30 sworn personnel, 20 police, 10 fire. And Brownfield Redevelopment Fund, which I mentioned before, actually increases by $202,000. Again, $200,000 coming from the revolving loan fund as required by council. When we talked about economic development, you wanted us to utilize $200,000 each year from our revolving loan fund. So the budget includes that. And we also had a couple new districts that were added to the Brownfield Redevelopment Authority Fund. So you'll see a slight increase in the property tax revenues. So next fund is our enterprise funds, and our enterprise funds account for services provided to the public on a user charge basis. Again, the enterprise fund represents roughly 52% of the budget and can be found on pages 229 to 266 of the budget document. Enterprise funds for fiscal year 2027 is projected to be $119.35 million, and this represents an increase of 33.98 million, or roughly 40%. Now, looking at these funds specifically, the boat launch fund is budgeted at $25,000. It's the same as it has been in previous years. Let's take a look at the sewer operation and maintenance fund. The sewer operation and maintenance fund will increase by $18.64 million for a total of $52.81 million. This increase is due to increase in planned capital purchases and capital improvements as a result of the city's issuance of the Clean Water State Revolving Fund bond back in 2026. Actually happened in August of '26. This bond provided for funding to improve the sewer disposal system. In addition, and I might add, you could take a look back at Mike Grenier's presentation from last council meeting, because a lot of the projects are listed in that presentation. We will also see increases in chemicals, engineering services, motor pool charges, the general liability insurance, information management charges, and indirect cost allocation. As it relates to personnel complement for the Department of Water and Wastewater Services, as this fund is shared with Department of Public Services, we will have some changes to the personnel complement. An instrument control specialist has been added to the complement. Also, the Deputy Director of Instrumentation and Control Administrator, one long title, was retitled to Instrumentation and Control Administrator, and that's because of a recent retirement. And then we actually changed the name of a sewer plant maintenance personnel 1 to a laborer 2, or laborer 1. So we had a sewer plant operator, maintenance person 1 changes to a laborer 1. Some of these positions are shared with the water fund. Also on the sewer side, for the Department of Public Services Maintenance and Service, a temporary labor position was added to the complement, and this was due to an omission of this position in previous years. And likewise, 2 water sewer interns for this complement was retitled to a temporary labor So they just changed titles. And those are shared with the Water Operation and Maintenance Fund. So let's take a closer look at water operation and maintenance. And this fund will increase $15.35 million for a total budget of $66.52 million for the year. Similar to the sewer fund, we also have the drinking water state revolving loan bond that was issued back in September of 2026. And so the budget actually reflects the issuance of that bond, and it provides for planned capital purchases and capital improvement projects for the fund. Similar to the sewer fund, you will also see increases in chemicals, engineering services, motor pool charges, general liability insurance, information management charges, and the cost allocation. I've already discussed the personnel changes for on the sewer side that also affect the water side, but we also had some additions to the wastewater and wastewater services by adding an electrical maintenance foreman and a laborer one. There was also a market adjustment for the chief chemist. To offset this personnel complement change, there was the elimination of a water sewer intern in the department or in the fund. So, for more detailed information about changes to the sewer operation and maintenance fund, there is a presentation that was provided by Mike Grenier on the sewer operation and maintenance fund. The next fund type is our internal service funds. Again, internal service funds account for goods and services provided to one department by another on a cost reimbursement basis. The internal service fund represents roughly 5% of the total budget and can be found on pages 267 to 300 of the budget. The total budget for this fund type equates to $11.13 million, and this is an increase of $394,918. So let's discuss some of these changes. Increases are most notably seen in the Department of Technical Services, IS, and I'm going to flip back one chart to give you a better representation there. This department will be $2.55 million, and this represents a $328,000 increase. This increase is attributed to purchases of computer software and for the lease on the central network switches for City Hall. In addition, this budget does include some personal complement restructuring. The radio operation fund will be $179,811 for fiscal year 27, and this is an increase of $2,146. This increase is related to depreciation that we have to budget for the purchase. The purchase of the new radio system back in 2024. Yeah, Phil doesn't like depreciation. The motor pool operation fund will increase $74,493 from the previous year. And then you can see that it's $3.26 million. And this increase is realized in motor vehicle supplies and motor vehicle repair costs. And for fiscal year 2027, the self-insurance fund is projected to be $2.72 million, and this is an increase of $64,811, and this is due to increasing general liability insurance rates and the national market because of the nationwide economic condition of our markets. But there's some offsets. The Public Works Building will be $635,977 for 2027, which is a $5,638 reduction. This reduction is related to operating expenses. The Workers' Compensation Fund will be $1.38 million for fiscal year 27. The total budget will decrease $68,741, and this is due to a decrease in our settlement and claims. And finally, Technical Services GIS, or Geographical Information System, is projected to be $392,185. This is a decrease of $244. Finally, our last fund type is our fiduciary funds. And our fiduciary funds accounts for the administration of property or assets that are owned by another entity besides the city. This is found on pages 301 to 306 of the budget. Again, this fund type represents less than 1% of the total citywide budget. For 2027, the projected budget for this fund type is $34,910. And this represents the same as in prior years. And this fund type is the cemetery endowment funds. So you have Forest Lawn and Oakwood that make up this fund type. These funds are legally restricted resources and are 25% of the cemetery revenues collected in the general fund. The revenues can only be used for cemetery care purposes in accordance with the city charter. So, that's a lot of information. This concludes my presentation for the 2027 proposed budget. Now, the Office of Management and Budget, we do understand that this is a lot of information, it's overwhelming. That's why we give it to you and give it to you in various forms. But we do invite you to meet with us so that we can sit down and discuss the budget, discuss maybe some of your concerns. And you can contact the city manager's office to schedule appointments. I know that Vicki has sent to you the dates that were available to meet with you, and we look forward to meeting with you. I know I meet with you tomorrow. And so, thank you, and at this time, I am available to answer any of your questions.
I have a question, but it's not for you. It's for Phil.
Oh, snap.
Are we going back up on the rubbish? Did I hear that right? In 226, 27? Please tell me.
Yeah, several years ago, I gave a presentation, and even at the 250, and I'm trying to keep this short and simple, but it's pretty easy math. Like, so 5.3 million is the rubbish fund, and we have about 18,500 units that are serviced. So if you just did the simple math, 5.3 million to provide the service divided by the 18, I think it's 18,413, it'd be about $287 per unit. So at the 250, I'm still $37 per unit under what I need. So to budget this year's balance, we're utilizing some fund balance. We had a little bit of fund balance. I'm trying to keep 10% per some government, they require you to try to keep 10% in case you run into some emergencies. So we're doing that. So I think I had to use $480,000 of fund balance. But I am looking at some potential opportunities to create some more efficiencies and savings moving forward to try to minimize this increase having to continue. But a presentation I gave several years ago showed that it had to go from 200 to 210. So we were raising it incrementally $10 up until about 23. I was fortunately able to put a pause on that, but with the cost of the Packer trucks and all that almost doubling now, I mean, it's just the cost of this stuff since COVID hit is astronomical. So it's increased. I mean, a Packer truck that used to be maybe $320,000 is about $550,000 now to buy. So this year to 250 is much needed, but I am looking at some things that I'm going to present to the manager and the finance department on moving forward to try to get some cost now.
So there's no change in the force line either, right? But I do want to thank you, because now my mom is not underwater with the system that was put in.
Yeah, no, the MARPA dollars went really well to take care of that drainage out there.
Really helped. I don't have to worry about trying to wade to the gravesite. No, so I just want to thank you. Anybody else got questions?
I didn't know Phil was responsible for our, she's the department for our rubbish, but.
Yeah.
Now that I know that, I feel different about Phil.
In a good way or a bad way, though?
It's a bad way.
Oh.
Councilwoman.
Thank you. So I had an observation and then a question. Observation is on page 124 of the budget, we've got the total major streets revenue since 2016, and boy, it's like that stonks meme. I'm sorry, but it just goes up. I love to see it. I know a lot of that's like, obviously we have the state law changing with the marijuana tax and fund structure. I'm keeping my eyes on those lawsuits to see if that changes. But I know that's also a lot of hard work reflective of the people leading the department and, investments that we made to go after grant allocations and stuff. So fantastic. And it's good silver linings. But my question was, in that section, we talked about reduction to our debt service payments, and that's also in, I think it was on the Major Streets Fund, can we dig more into that? Are there debts that expired? Are we just paying less? What are the consequences of reducing our debt service payments?
They've matured and we've paid them off.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah, so
Oh,
that's
so
what.
thumbs up.
Yes.
Fantastic.
Yes.
Great.
To buy some equipment years ago, we couldn't cash purchase, so we worked with OMB to do a finance package on some plow trucks and packer trucks, and that it's now coming off.
Fantastic. Well, I look forward to a meeting tomorrow as well.
Okay.
No questions? Any more questions? Sounds like when a council person, my colleagues, you have been invited to actually sit down and talk to Ms. Bland and her department. But you need to go through Vicky to set appointments up. She sent some stuff out. Please govern yourself accordingly. Mr. Manager,
That concludes the management update.
do we have any questions for our city manager? Hold on, I'm always at your end first. Hold on, anybody down here? Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. So 6 years ago, when we heard your report before our other presentations, you mentioned the working on the form to information form and also sign up to get the services to help with cleanups that also Councilwoman Wiggins mentioned in her comment. So I looked at the form that you sent along. I think it needs some work. It looks very user unfriendly, the form, and there's this massive indemnification on the bottom. Like if we're switching up the way that we're doing it because we have an independent contractor, I'm wondering if that's necessary to have, because like the form just kind of gets scarier as you read it. And if I was somebody that just wanted to go out with a couple of my friends and help pick up leaves and stuff and had some questions, I'd be kind of scared by that form. So I was wondering if the whole thing's gonna get revamped.
Yeah, with the person next to me, probably gonna have an indemnification if there's city equipment and things like that included. But I think it can, it looks like a form that's set up to be printed and submitted. And I think we would like something a little bit more tech-friendly. So Vicki Davis can work with our tech department on how can we get that into our system and make it a little bit easier to complete online so that we can, help if we need be. And I think looking at the form, as you stated, it looks like it's geared towards formal organizations, really, but I think we do want to make it easier and more user-friendly. Good point, though, that it has been out there for a long time. Maybe people weren't aware of it because as a form, it's hard to find, but they've been working with Phil's office. And even without the form, I think if individuals aren't doing, a formal type cleanup, please just call us. We'll do pickups. Phil's office will work with people that go out and pick things up even if it's a less formal thing where they don't want to, sign up and use equipment, but we'll help out any way you can.
Absolutely, and maybe like an FAQs page, because in the email that I forwarded to you and Phil earlier this week, where we had a citizen who was doing some good, and then they realized they had no idea what to do with all this debris, and then I realized I wouldn't have any idea what to do with that debris either. So just allocating that information for when people are trying to do the Good Samaritan work and just have questions of where to go and where to put things in a legal way that's compliant with city policies. I really appreciate the work on that. I'm good.
Any other questions?
Not at all.
I need to ask, I forgot to announce something. Can I do it right here or no? Okay, all right. No other questions for the city manager? Madam Clerk.
On to the consent agenda.
The agenda has been available at City Hall and on city webpage. I need a motion to approve the agenda, leaving room for exception.
So moved.
Second.
Is there any exceptions? No exceptions. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Madam Clerk,
Next item is board, commission, and committee reports.
do we have any reports on any boards or commissions? Madam Clerk,
On to resolutions. Our first is approving the Community Development Block Grant Program Submission Program for year 2026-2027.
I need a motion to adopt.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions? All those in favor signify by saying
There's
aye.
a question on the
Oh, I'm
envelope.
sorry.
I'm so sorry, I'm not exactly sure, just because we're moving quickly. I had a question about the DDA allocation. Is that in this resolution, or is it in the, I don't remember if it's under CDBG, home, or ESG. It's under, okay, it's under this one. So I remembered seeing in the presentation that there, was there for the DDA allocation, did that come through Human Planning Commission?
It's a manager's adjustment, yes. It was recommended by HPC to be 0. I put it back to the last year's amount and made adjustments in some other areas through working with Yolanda. And discussions with the DDA, I think probably in the next year we do want to move away from that. It's something that, might not have as much support from the HPC, and then also I think some of the limitations that are with that funding maybe is not as beneficial to the DDA. As this year, I think we'll continue to see increases in the 2 mil levy and some of the capture from the DDA, so I would recommend to the DDA to move away from that next year and likely not apply.
Okay. Yeah, I do take issue with the DDA allocations myself. I don't think that it matches a lot of the uses for CDBG and a lot of the purposes of CDBG. I'll also use this opportunity to say that I'd love to see the DDA use funding, and I know we've discussed this before, in limited capacity for taking care of the sidewalks in DDA areas, especially taking care of snow removal, because what I hate to see, and I've spoken, I've spoken to the new people who work at Gordy's and the owners there, and one of the worst days was there were some people who had mobility issues who could not get in and out of the restaurant because the ice and the snow was so piled on. And when businesses take care of their own sidewalks, the problem is it's just your normal everyday employees doing it, and they're not dressed for inclement weather a lot of the time. They don't have, especially if that's, a city truck came through, there's a chunk of ice there, it's sat, you need a pickaxe to get through some of that ice. So I would appreciate that discussion to be talked about more at the DEA, but I appreciate the clarification.
Any other questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Madam Clerk.
Our next resolution is approving the home program submission program for year 2026-2027.
I need a motion to adopt.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Yes, Councilwoman Williams.
I have a question, I guess, or a concern specifically about the Compassionate Care Network. I did some digging on their website and just in general on what they have to offer. And in the same area, there's like Habitat for Humanity, there's the Building Power. The Compassionate Care Network requires, it looks like, a non-refundable, before approval, $150 application fee. I guess I have issue with that because it's for people that are already in a position that they can't afford to fix their house. And to go through that, have that $150 and then be rejected for whatever reason, I think it's a hardship. And it's $120,000 that I think could be pushed to maybe Habitat for Humanity, or like the you said you didn't want to give a lot of money to to the building power projects, but just I think the $120K for compassionate care, I have little questions about that.
So the $150 application fee is not for the program they run through us.
Okay.
It's for their NIP program. It's from the Federal Home Loan Bank of Indianapolis, and they require a nonprofit to process those applications, but they don't pay the nonprofits. So anyone who runs that program puts an application fee on to pay the staff to run the program. The money from the Federal Home Loan Bank only funds the actual repairs. But that's not this program.
That's not this.
That's not
And so
this program.
These funds
That's totally separate.
are for rehab work.
Yep, and so they have the option to build new, and like right now, they're working on a house on Alamo Court. It had been vacant and it met the test to be put back into service versus being demolished. And so the money they have from us, they can do either one. They can build new or take a house and put it back into service.
And how many homes do they do?
We just started our relationship with them, and so this is our first project with them. This is our first.
Okay, so is there a litmus, like, do they have to do a certain number of homes improvements or build?
The way we run our programs for that is we give them the money and they spend until it's gone, and then it goes to the next property. So when they finish Alamo Court and they sell it, then they can use that money to go to the next project, and then we just keep going until the money's gone.
Is there, oh, go ahead, sorry.
But if the 100 in that category on that page, you have the authority to move those funds how you want them to go.
I'm just wondering if there's a specific breakdown for administration or specific projects, goals that they had, so it's just kind of a blanket 120?
It's a blanket 120. You can spend no more than 120 on a house, so sometimes new construction gets difficult with 120, so they have to bring in other money. And whatever the cost of the project, so if we do a $120,000 project, they can spend no more than 10% on administration of it. So that's how that works.
Thank you.
Councilwoman Seals.
Yes, I've even heard of some people actually getting scholarships for that cost, for that $150 cost, so. There are scholarships for that for some, I don't know how many they have, it might be a very minimal amount, maybe like one or two, but they do have scholarships for that too, for some people that can't afford it.
I just know that, I actually have a friend that was qualified for Habitat for Humanity, where they're doing, redoing their siding, their roof, and lots of other things. Person was walking down the street and said, "Hey, I want to talk to you. Maybe you qualify." And this person did qualify. Habitat did have I think it was I know you said this is not associated with that, but that $250 application fee, but it was only after they knew that they were approved. So when I saw that, it just kind of gave me pause for the organization. It just seems like, I don't know, maybe it could go to other organizations that are actively trying to, I don't know, make sure everybody gets it, gets their house fixed.
I have a question, because that program she's talking about, I know people that used it. That program's been around for a long time. Is that correct, the compassionate care?
The NIP program
Yeah,
has
it
been
used to
around
be,
for a long time.
like 10,000, now it's 15,000.
Yep. And
it's a great
it
program.
moves from one nonprofit to
And I did
another.
talk to Sandy, the secretary, and asked her if she could come and talk about it, because I know they're getting ready to launch it in a couple weeks. And so now they do it online. Before they had in person, but now you can do it online. But I know that people that have gotten this grant, it's a great, because this program, if you have homeowners insurance or not, you qualify. For most of these programs, you have to have homeowners insurance. So this is a great program for people that don't have that, depending on where they live and stuff. So it's a really great program.
Yes.
So the $120,000 for new construction for compassionate care, do you happen to know, under their new construction plan, have they received any other allocations or funding from other government entities for that new construction program?
Our program only funds properties in the city limits. They are working with some money from the Veterans Administration for some property in Buena Vista, but that's all that I know.
Okay, thank you.
Are we still working with other entities to assist? I know that, was it last year, year before last? I don't know the name of the bank, but we were actually referring people to different banks who had Christmas in July when it was January. They just had programs and dollars available.
Right.
Are we gonna continue to do that as well?
As they call us, yes. We don't turn away any partnerships at all.
Any other questions?
I just got a comment. I'm glad to hear they're working with Federal Home Loan Bank, because they put a lot of money in communities and stuff, and they help people with lower income get houses and stuff too. I know that for a fact. And I'm sure my colleague from the credit union probably knows that too.
Any other questions? Yes.
Just a comment, because we were talking about compassionate care and their footprint around with the veterans housing and now with some of this in the city. If and as the Potter Street Station STARS program goes forward, they are already purchasing properties over in that area. So as STARS builds out the station, then they're gonna build out housing from the station to 675. So we should see more as long as that project, and this was a big announcement that they did, and they had a lot of people that were brought into the meeting. I see a lot of head shaking, because there was even state representatives that were there, people from Congress, so more to come, hopefully from this organization, yeah.
Any other questions? Call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Madam Clerk.
Our final resolution is approving the Homeless Assistance Program Emergency Solutions Grant Submission Program for year 2026-2027.
So moved.
I need a motion. I need a motion to approve.
Support.
Any questions? No, because when you jump before me, it's like nobody knows who's doing what. Last I seen, I say it. Do we have any questions? Call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Madam Clerk,
On to miscellaneous business.
I'm sorry.
Miscellaneous business.
Oh, I'm sorry. These ordinance will be laid over per. Am I looking at the wrong thing? It's on my sheet of paper. It's
No,
on my
that
sheet
wasn't,
of.
I apologize, that
Oh.
wasn't the resolution last meeting.
Okay, see.
Yeah.
Because when you said that was the last one, I'm like, well, we must not be doing this. Okay, so yes, we mess up sometime, everybody. We're under miscellaneous business. Do I have any motions to put on the floor?
I like the motion to adjourn.
If none, I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay.